Hey, welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Huck Breeze, and I'm joined here, as always, by Scott Sheddick. Scott, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I mean, I'd be doing a little better if I wasn't 0 and 2, but I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am 2-0 in the league that we are in together. Uh, yes, cheers to that. Hey, what are you drinking, by
Cheers.
the way? We haven't done a what are
Oh,
you drinking in a while.
I really haven't. It's true. I'm actually having a little Tito's with a little orange juice and body armor. So body armor's in there to stay refreshed and
Right, stay
hydrated.
healthy. A little
Hydrated.
after
Yeah,
work delight. Cool.
exactly. What about you?
I'm just going with my usual, the Mountain Dew. I'm not gonna, indulge on a Tuesday. Those are for weeks when I lose. Um,
Now, is it a regular Mountain Dew? I know you're always
mm,
posting these like specialty Mountain Dews that I've never seen before. I've never even heard of these most of the time.
yeah,
What do you
Major
got here?
Melon. For those who don't know, I do have a passion for Mountain Dews, and I collect Mountain Dews, and I've gone down the rabbit
Hmm.
hole of how Mountain Dew variations and flavors, around the country, and how they have contracts with different convenience stores, and you can only get certain ones in certain regions of the United States and worldwide. Um, some are discontinued. I know it gets crazy. They're selling them for
There's
like
there's a real Mountain Dew market out there.
there are.
Like,
They're selling like unopened Pitch Black, which ran from like 2013 to 2019 for like $200, like an unopened can, just a
I just
little
imagine you
12 ounce
like
can.
making some back alley deals. Like, hey, I got the stuff.
Seriously, no, there is a huge market for Mountain Dews that
uh,
have been discontinued. You can't find them anywhere. There's some from back in the 90s and stuff like that. The the like I'm telling you, the market for like sodas and nostalgia of the 90s and early 2000s, the early Halo Mountain Dew stuff where they paired up with Halo, that stuff's worth a lot of money. But anyway, I can do a whole 2 hour podcast on Mountain Dew and collectibles and stuff like that. But we won't go there. But yes, Major Melon Zero is good stuff.
oh, watching the weight with the zero. That's nice.
It just doesn't like regular sugar is too much for me. I can't drink anything full sugar, like at all. If I drink a Coke, it would make me sick. It would make me like, oh, that's
Mm,
just too much. Even the Gatorade, I do Gatorade Zero, like all that sort of
mm.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to the aspartame, the fake stuff. I know
Mm.
people have said, it gives you higher chance for cancer, but I feel like those statistics, might be misleading because we don't have enough research on it. But anyway, again, um, let's get into what are you watching? What is filling up your time that's non-football in these past few weeks?
These past few weeks, and I guess one of the main reasons I'm indulging with a drink is tonight's the finale of Bachelorette. I've been
Mm,
watching. I'm a big Bachelorette fan. They've had two Bachelorettes this season. Jesse Palmer's been the host. He is about as bad at being a host as he was at football. He's the worst. But watching him ask these ladies like, "Oh, well, how are you feeling for this?" I'm just like, "I don't want to fucking talk to you."
yeah.
It's pretty funny. But we found the finale tonight, so I'm excited for that. And then other than that, just been honestly been comparing Rings of Power to House of Dragons lately in my
Yeah.
mind. And I'm really, to me, watching both of them, before the season, I would have said House of Dragons. But Rings of
Mhm.
Power, I think it's
Yeah,
just a much superior show.
absolutely agree. I think Rings of Power is really uh, stepped up their game as far as their storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this last scene with the elves when they're imprisoned and they were made to cut down that tree, and it was really like, you know, heart-wrenching for them. I thought that that was very Tolkien-esque, and that's what I'm looking for,
Mm-hmm.
something to continue that Tolkien-esque storyline, something that makes you feel like this is Lord of the Rings. This is something that's really like legitimate and something that follows in what I would think. And there's all kinds of opinions out there of what people think that J.R.R. Tolkien would think would be good for a series, to continue his storyline. I think that personally, this is, this is a good representation of that. But yeah, I really enjoy. It's not to say I don't enjoy House of Dragons. It's good. I just thus far, I think they're trying to play into what made uh, the previous series so good, whether it be incest or bloodiness or children slaying adults, or I don't know, whatever. And it's not, I don't know. It hasn't really gripped me yet. I watch it every
Yeah.
Sunday, but it's not like I'm looking forward to it for Sunday nights. It's just something that's like, well, okay, I got to watch that.
Riddle me this: if
Mhm.
it had nothing, no ties to Game of Thrones at all, and was just its own fantasy show, would you even give a shit?
I would probably binge it. It
Once it's
wouldn't.
done, like later, like
Yeah,
once the
I would
season's over,
probably
yeah,
binge it, and I
I could
wouldn't.
do that.
I wouldn't like right now. I make it either a Sunday or a Monday, depending on the Sunday night game, a Sunday or Monday tradition, where Sunday night Stephanie and I will sit there and watch House of Dragons. If I didn't have that Game of Thrones history and the tradition of Sunday nights, I know you used to do this long ago, where you'd
Hmm.
have wine and a charcuterie board and all that sort of stuff. Like, if I didn't have that sort of tradition for watching that show on Sunday nights, I this season in particular, I probably wouldn't do it, you know?
Yeah, I just feel like they're hanging on to that as much as they can, but
Not bad,
yeah,
not the best.
yeah. You know that the actresses, like, they're about to speed everything up, and
Right. Which is
yeah,
something they already did, I feel like, in like from episode
basically
two to
they
three.
filmed a lot of things that they skipped over. They like the children being born, the king and the chick getting married. They
Mhm.
filmed a few other things that they already skipped over. And you think about it, like in the original Game of Thrones, those were whole episodes.
Yes.
That was like a huge thing. And now there's
Right.
like, oh yeah, by the way, this happened and that happened. That's person. Do you like him because they're fucking gone? And then you know when the guy went to go kill the crab guy, they tried to equate that to the Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, not the same, not on the same level.
Yeah,
No. I mean, I
yeah.
enjoyed it,
So,
but it should have been a microcosm in what should be a very long season or very long storyline. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into some football. Let's talk about I know you're 0-2, okay? And it's not something you can't come back from. And you know that. I mean, we've seen 0-2 teams come back and win championships. We've seen 0-2 teams do really well. Maybe not in NFL as much, but in fantasy, you're definitely not out of it. All you got to do is make the playoffs. That's the goal. Take it week by week. Be better than the majority of or the half the other teams in your league, and you're in. And there's always a shot. So my question, and that I ask myself all week, is, and I want to ask you this question: when do you give up on a player? So when the vultures are swirling after an 0-2 start, when do you give up on a player, especially a highly touted player that you had confidence in literally 2 weeks ago? When do you give up on him if he's not producing the way you want him to?
it, it's situational. I think, it depends on their matchups. Like, do they just have really bad matchups the first couple of weeks? Do they have someone else, like a bad quarterback, turning the ball over around them? Things like that. I don't try to think of it as giving up on a player. I think of it as, what are you getting in return? Because I'm not giving up on them if I'm getting good value in return for them. I'm just exchanging my value. Because I still believe that that player could do well for the other person. It's just that, well, right now I need to make moves. I need to make changes and gain points in other ways, and I can't wait around for that person to hopefully get back to their to prime and really start playing well again. I don't have the luxury of that at 0-2. If you're 2-0 and you want to put them on your bench and start someone else, hey, you have that luxury. That's fine.
Isn't that by definition though taking an L? Like, yeah, you don't think that they may be productive later, but I don't believe in it enough or believe in them enough that I want to wait for that. I mean, if
Well,
you've
that's what
got
I'm saying. The luxury of being 2-0, you could like stash them for your playoffs later,
yes,
and hopefully they come back and are playing better later because now you're kind of thinking ahead. Whereas right now, I have to live in the moment or else I'm dead because 0-2 isn't necessarily a death sentence, but 0-3 kind of is.
true. I mean, yes. So we're working within the confines of a 14-week regular season. A lot of different leagues do different ways of doing it. Sometimes they face everybody once, sometimes they face everybody twice, whatever. 10 teams leagues might do 13 weeks and the playoffs 14, 15, 16. Us personally, our playoffs are 15, 16, 17. So I think the magic number that you have to get to make the playoffs in our league, and I've done some pretty extensive research on this, is 7. 7 wins is guarantee. Very few times you get to 6, you're in, and if you're 8, you're definitely guaranteed. So right there at 7, that's the number you got to shoot for. If you're 0-3, then what you're saying is that you have to go 7-4 the rest of the season. It's not possible at all, right? But you are definitely fighting an uphill battle. So, and I'm not saying that you took an L on the trade we made. So let's fill in people just in case they didn't know. On the trade we made, you are disgusted, and again, we're in a 2-quarterback league. You were disgusted with the performance of Matt Ryan, rightfully so. He looked terrible against the Jags defense that got torn up week 1 by Carson Wentz. He looked terrible in week 2. So you got rid of Matt Ryan, Najee Harris, who was noticeably underperforming, Foy Aluakon, who's a pretty prominent IDP guy. Yeah. And Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, who's definitely been underperforming, didn't get targeted until the 4th quarter last night, so did not show anything different. I gave you Jared Goff, who I believe is quarterback 5 as of right now. I gave James Robinson, who's had 2 really productive weeks, 10 plus points in both those weeks.
Especially, which is great for running backs right now.
Right. Romeo Doubs, who for me was, somebody that is in a crowded wide receiver room. I think I've talked about this every podcast. Who would you like to have on the Packers offense? Trying to get to manifest the Romeo Doubs to happen. And I watched the game on Sunday night, and it's like he's in on half the plays, and he
dropped a big pass too.
He fell, I think.
Yeah, he slipped, but there's another pass that he was just on the wrong page. He's still young.
He's still young, but you see a lot of Lazard and Watkins and Cobb, which makes me want to throw up, but they won the game, and it is what it is. And I gave you Cole Holcomb, who's a middle linebacker, who I really like. I think he's been top 10 IDP every full year he's played since 2019 when he was a rookie. Anyway, so really on that, Najee Harris was the big one that you took, I believe, with your 2nd pick, right?
Yes, I believe so.
And trust me, when I got him, I didn't get him because I thought Najee Harris was a buy low. Because I fully believe, just like you fully believe, Najee Harris is not playing at 100%. Right?
No. While watching both the games, he's
probably playing at like 90%, maybe even less, 80%. I mean, even then he's missing holes. He just doesn't look like he has the same burst. And maybe it's just the offense as a whole, but it's not the Najee Harris we saw last year with Big Ben. So honestly, by definition, you gave up on Najee, and you took a loss because you took a guy that picked up as a free agent, a guy I traded Cooper Rush for, and a guy I picked, I think round 15 with James Robinson, and my 4th round pick. So,
I mean, but you're still living in the preseason. If that's the way you're thinking about it.
That was 2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago. That's what I'm saying. Like Najee being my 2nd round pick, play like it and I'll care.
Right.
Put points up like it and I'll give 2 shits about you. I was getting offers for Najee for the past week, and honestly, you hit me with the trade offer at the right time. Like the other time people would send me trade offers, I was working, I was doing something, I was doing chores around the house, something. Because I was in my right mind, I was like, I need to get rid of Najee. I just need to make it for something good. I think we both won and lost in certain areas. Like,
I don't disagree. I think that, it goes into the conversation what I'm talking about is when you give up on a player. I'm not
mhm.
saying you lost by any means, because I think that you did well for yourself. You're right. If Najee doesn't show up for the next 2 to 3 weeks and you are 1-4, you are in huge trouble. And if you're trying to get rid of him at that, his stock has plummeted to absolutely nothing, and you're not going to get anything
Exactly.
out of him. So you got to make a business decision. Say, hey, how much is Najee worth to me? Am I going to move him and whatever? Um, so so yeah, I immediately got not rid of Najee as well. I got him in a deal for Tyreek Hill, but that's besides the point.
How do you
But
turn? I just saw it. That's that's a bad trade.
yeah,
Who did that?
Najee Harris
That's a
and
terrible trade.
and
Najee Harris and Adam Thielen for Tyreek
yes,
Hill and Kenneth Walker.
yeah. I immediately dumped Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is kind of
Yeah, yeah.
useless right
You
now.
just you just you traded a very subpar running back and a forgettable, droppable wide receiver for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. I don't know if Thielen is droppable. I think that he does still play in a good offense, but he is definitely dropped in ranking and somebody that would qualify to me as a wide receiver four. There's free
Yeah, yeah,
agent
yeah. I
receivers,
agree. Yeah,
free
like
agent
someone to fill in
receivers.
for a bye week. That's really it. And
And if he had
honestly,
a
week
good
to
week or
week, you
two,
might find someone else.
a good week or two would give
Yeah.
him wide receiver three status. I mean, we're talking about Adam Thielen, who in the past has been a wide receiver two, and it's not like Kirk Cousins has been terrible.
Yeah.
He just had a really bad week this last week and didn't
Yeah,
really
he just
target
had a bad
anyone.
week. Yeah.
Okay, so this brings us into this discussion, and I tried to make this kind of Bachelorette themed. Okay, we're going to do a category, would you dump them, and a category, would you give these guys a rose? And I'm talking rest of the season, right? Okay.
Ooh. Oh, it's full commitment. They get the full engagement.
Full
Wow.
commitment. I mean, if you're
Okay.
going to give them the rose, then
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So
They get
so
in the
yeah,
ring and everything. I don't
yes.
know. No guys are ready to propose this season. I don't know if you've been watching.
I honestly have not. I wish, that I had the time, but there's a bajillion things to watch every single day.
I know.
Maybe in this next upcoming season. Um,
All righty.
let's start with Kyle Pitts. Would you dump him?
Yeah, Kyle Pitt's stinky. He's stinky. He need to put some deodorant in those pits. I mean, it hasn't looked good for him. He's got over 2 games. He's got what 10 targets total, and out of those 10 targets, he's got 4 receptions, 38 yards. Like that's
Yeah.
really bad. And both
Yeah.
both play scripts were different. In the first one, they were up for a while, and then they lost at the last second to the Saints. And the second one, they were down for a while against the Rams. So it's like whether they're up or down, he doesn't get the ball. Like
Yeah.
that's really bad.
It is, and it does not help that the coach came out and said this is not fantasy football. I hate that. I can't stand that when coaches come out and do that.
Oh,
That this is not fantasy football. Well, the the person asking that question in the media did not ask that question. I mean, yes. So you have a lot of people who play fantasy football. It's a big business now, but they're not asking that question purely based on fantasy football. What they're asking that question is, this is by far your best offensive player. This is a guy you took fourth overall over Jamar Chase, over all these prominent the quarterbacks and all this sort of stuff. You believe him to be a great tight end, and you are not featuring him. So I know it's not fantasy football, but if you want to win, you might want to feature your best player. So my opinion on whether to dump him or not is I would not. I think that is a even if you're 0-2, I think that's somebody you're going to build around going forward. Not injured, okay? As far as I know, he's not injured. He's still the most talented, probably person on the field when they're on offense. Okay. Uh, you're coming up on Seattle this week on the road. I think this is a really good test to see what Kyle Pitts can do. If he comes out flat, doesn't get more than 5 targets, 6 targets, then we're talking about not bust, but we're talking about somebody that you may try to get as much as you can for somebody who still believes in Kyle Pitts and try to move yourself forward, because you're probably going to be 0-3 because you probably spent a top 3 pick on Kyle Pitts. He was very highly touted. Uh, I have Kyle Pitts in a couple of my leagues. I still believe in him. I think that he is going to get his at some point. I think the game flow thus far, Drake London had a good week 1. Week 2, they faced the Rams, not an easy tight end defense. So
it just scares me what you said about the head coach. That just screams ignorance to me. Like, dude, the guy wasn't asking about fantasy football. The guy's asking you why you're playing. You're playing your best players out there and go, all right, you just run out there and do nothing. Meanwhile, the rest of us are going to go this way.
Daryl Hodge.
It's so bad. Like,
yeah,
they basically are going into the second year with zero plan to get their best player the ball. And if you're going into a game like that, not featuring your best players, you're playing to lose. You're going out there and hoping, oh, Mariota's got it. Mariota will just he'll win the game for us. And if that's your thought process, you're a fucking idiot. You need to be fired, man. Like, before the season ends. Don't even waste what's his name, the Arthur Blankman's time. Man, poor old guy dresses too good to be fucking watching that crap football.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're feeding the balls to Daryl Hodge, and I understand if teams want to focus in on Kyle Pitts every game. You got Drake London on the other side. He was your first round pick. I mean, he's great.
There's ways to game plan it. There's ways to get him the ball. If you want to get him the ball, they're not even trying.
Right. Exactly. Like I said, I think against Seattle coming up this week, I think this is a good time to really feature Pitts, see what he can do, see if he can come out and really produce for you. Otherwise, might be time to talk about moving him. All right, how about Joe Burrow? I know you have strong opinions on Joe Burrow. Is he somebody you dump?
No, I wouldn't dump Joe. I think Joe's just having a little bit of a slow start right now. He had that was it appendectomy surgery in the middle of preseason, so he took some time off. I think he's just taking a little time to get back to it. The biggest thing with Joe is, I mean, he's got something like 80 pass attempts in the first 2 games. You know that he's always going to be the guy, and especially in a league like ours at 2 QBs, that's very important to know that your quarterback's never going to be replaced. But even in other leagues, if you want to go back and get someone for a week or 2 until he gets back to his A game, that might be something you want to do in 1 quarterback leagues, I'm saying. But I wouldn't dump Joe Burrow at all. I think he's going to come back strong. It's just taking him a little bit of time. He's still got Jamar Chase there. No one's really hurt. So I wouldn't dump him.
So, I mean, it depends on what kind of league you're in. In my opinion, I think that in ours, we play in a 2 quarterback league. So Joe Burrow was a pretty highly touted pick. He was a first round pick. So at this point, while he still has some kind of value, I would try to move him. I would try to dump him. And the reason why is there's a list of things I go by when evaluating a quarterback or evaluating a player at, separate positions. The top one for me for quarterback is going to be injury. Are you playing injured? Are you 100%? Number 2, though, is the O-line. If the O-line is not giving you the time you need to throw, you're not going to be successful no matter what. Okay, that week 1, he came out. You saw the game against Pittsburgh. I mean, it looked like TJ Watt was having a field day. It looked like you guys were having a field day on him, and he would force some picks and
you
whatever.
don't play TJ Watt every week, though.
Okay, but he came out week 2 against the Cowboys, and you expected him against the Cowboys defense to go out and throw like 4 touchdowns. I had him in daily fantasy all over the place. Like, go out and hit Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Jamar Chase was absolutely covered up by Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs is not that good. So something was wrong there, and you could see it when they're playing that he's trying to make a decision, and he's got to either throw it away or whatever. He doesn't have a lot of time. I think at this point, Joe Burrow is, I don't know if he's rusty from his lack of time that he had in the preseason, but this O-line, they brought in a guy who said, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Your security guard's here. Your security blanket's here. No one's going to touch you. That was a lie. Okay. They didn't make the O-line any better. It's still bad. I think you dump him, and I think you get as much as you can. In our league, Chase has Joe Burrow. I've talked to him about it, not as like I want Joe Burrow because I'm not going to go out and pay a ton of money for Joe Burrow. Obviously, I'm saying dump him, but he's going to give him a few more weeks. That's fine,
I just
but
don't think he'd be able to get the value out of it that he'd want
but
to.
drafting him as QB like 10 or 11, you're talking about somebody who's in the 15 to 20 range right now, of quarterbacks. So uh, you do not want him coming out and scoring 10 points or 5 points or having a Matt Ryan game, as as we call it, and really sinking that value. You got to get it while people are still looking at Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd kind of production. Hayden Hurst really hasn't had a bad time either. So in my personal opinion, I would dump him. How about this one's interesting, and we can talk about his little outburst if you want as well. But how about Tom Brady?
I was debating on this one earlier because he is missing O linemen. He's missing wide receivers right now. He's going to be missing more wide receivers next week. So it's like I'm kind of back in my head. I'm like, well, it's not really him. He could, if all those players come back, he could be the same Tom Brady we've seen for years and play really well in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, he's old. His throws look like they don't really have much zip on them. Uh, they don't seem very disciplined. The fight thing we'll talk about. He's getting divorced. It doesn't seem
How
like
do
a
you
good
know he's getting
time
divorced?
to.
How do you know he's getting divorced?
It's it's
It's
not looking
speculation
good.
still, right?
It's
It's not
speculation, but like nothing at
somebody
home. The home life doesn't look good. That's all.
somebody
That's all I'm saying.
saw
But
Giselle crying on a cell phone, and somebody saw him distressed at the hotel in New Orleans.
if
That's
Giselle's
the
crying, that means she probably ruined about $10,000 worth of Botox. So those tears are real. All right. That's all I'm saying. Like so she. I'm just saying. Like it just doesn't seem like anything's working. Like you don't get into a fist fight with the Saints because you're having a good week. Like if things are going well, the shit some I was gonna say 0-2, but they're 1-1. DB doesn't matter. That's a thing to me. And to me, it also, if you're gonna start a fight, finish the fight. Don't have someone else finish for you. You're a little bitch.
I don't think that. Okay, so first of all, I mean, it is disgusting, and obviously there's speculation that about his home life. And I'm sorry, Tom Brady,
Well,
but
whatever it
you
is,
kind of
it's
did
not
this
good
to
if it's a
yourself.
distraction. It's a distraction.
He kind of
So
did it to himself. Yes, you came back not after retiring, essentially like months after retiring. You came out of retirement and said you came back because you had such a good team, and you missed a big chunk of preseason, like a week and a half of preseason for some reason nobody knows, which is not our speculation, but you missed it. You weren't there, and nobody knew about it, or nobody whatever. And now people are reporting that there's things wrong with you. People are reporting that he looks different, he looks gaunt, he just whatever. He seems very angry during the games. And again, we're not going to talk about Joe Flacco like this. We're not going to talk about Davis Mills like this, or even Trevor Lawrence. But you're Tom fucking Brady. You're going to get this kind of. You've brought this upon yourself for being the best quarterback that ever lived. And so at this point, I think that it is kind of a hurricane of things that are going on in Tampa. They won the game, which is the most important. So he can put out his little W video.
he has a
His
little
hype.
W video.
Have you ever seen his Instagram videos? After
No,
a
I
win, he
don't
puts
follow
out a
that douchebag
yeah.
on Instagram.
He puts out
I assume most of it's just ads to try and sell you TB12.
he did put out something about his new TB12 workout center at the Wynn in Vegas. He's a big Vegas guy, but no, it was he puts out these little like win videos after every win. He goes, we got it again or something cool. I mean, it's whatever. But he does that after every W. So he got that, but obviously
That's
that
what he
game
jerks
was
off to at night.
yeah. I'm watching, the game, on Sunday with the Tom Brady over, Neil sitting next to me, and he was like, "Your house is terrible juju. Your house sucks. This Tom Brady is angry, and it's because of your aura and your surroundings." And you know what? I'm not going to argue with him. Every time Neil comes over to my house, his team plays awful. But no, that game was tough to watch. I bet on the under in the first quarter. Uh, it was under 7.5. That would have hit in the first, second, and third quarter. So it was 3-3 going almost in the fourth quarter. So anyway, let's get back to this. So would you dump him? I think that was the question. Would you dump him
Yes,
you would dump him?
I'd dump him. Just too much going on. I would try to get as much value I can for him. And there's a lot of people out there that have seen Tom Brady play well for years. So you could probably find somebody that still believes in him. So
Mhm.
I don't think that'd be very hard.
Yeah, I mean, this is really tough. This is much tougher because of the different factors that are going on. Like Joe Burrow, I could be like, oh, your O-line's not playing very well, and you maybe look a little rusty from the last season, Super Bowl hangover, and there's easy reasons. Tom Brady's is like, I know you're missing some talent. Your O-line looks a little bit shaky, but there's a lot of like personal things that are going on. There's a lot of like questions about your own talent. I would probably dump him, and only if I got like a sweetheart package, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So for something good, I'm not just
Yeah,
giving him up for Matt Ryan or something.
yeah. Who would?
Who
Uh,
would?
who would? But yeah, no, I think I would definitely dump Tom Brady at this point. But I don't blame the owner if he decides to keep him. How about DK Metcalf?
I'm gonna dump him too. I
You're gonna
am.
dump him.
I know I seem like a mean guy right now, just dumping people left and right. It's just watching the Seahawks play. Um, over 2 games, he's got 13 targets, 70 yards. It's not great, no touchdowns. But the more the numbers don't really give you the full story. If you watch Gino play, and I love the stat that someone shared the other day of I think Gino has like 153 passer rating for passes over 15 yards or something. It's
Mhm.
because he's like 2 for 3, like literally. Like if you
Yeah.
watch Gino play, he sits there, they snap the ball, and people run off, and he goes, "You're useless. You're useless. You're useless." Waits for his running back to come out of the flats. He goes, right to him every single time. He'll throw to the closest freaking route run to him, and that
Mhm.
is 98% of the time not DK Metcalf.
Yep.
There was, I think, the last game they did a flea flicker or something, and the play called for Gino to bomb it to DK, and you could see that coming back to Gino, just like, oh, this is gonna ruin my stats. It's gonna be good. He just like he threw it like he was like crying as he did it. I swear to God, DK's like, oh my God, he actually threw the ball. That was like I think that was all 30 of his yards in that game. It just doesn't look like an offense that's made to get DK the ball anymore. And Gino is never going to throw him the ball unless he's forced to, basically. And that's not the DK you want to see. It's not the DK you drafted. I would dump him.
See, I was down on DK. I wasn't down on DK, but I was not as high on DK as everybody was going into the season, just because we kind of saw this Seattle pass game coming. I mean, they looked decent against Denver in week 1, or better than we thought. And then they came out against the 49ers and laid an egg. But this is not somebody that, I mean, this is a bottom 4 passing situation in the league that we thought wasn't that great. Now, the reason that we like DK Metcalf so much is for volume. And you're right, he only has 11 targets through 2 weeks. But I think right now I keep him. And the reason why is because I don't think you can get like a ton for DK Metcalf. I don't think anybody's looking at DK Metcalf like, you know what, I thought he'd be pretty good. And this is a good buy low. Like literally he was bought low. He should have been bought low at the draft. He should have been drafted low. And so if you drafted DK Metcalf high, then yeah, you're kind of stuck because if you're trading for an L anyway. I think he'll get his. I think he'll get his touchdowns. I think you're looking at some weeks where he'll have 100 yards and a touchdown, and purely based on volume. And I think he's super talented.
I think he is super talented, and that's
Mhm.
that's the attraction. My
Yep.
biggest thing is Gino plays quarterback like someone that's lost the starting role too many times. So he'll never play to win the game. He will play to not lose it. And if that's enough, then great. If the other team fumbles the ball 3 times in the red zone, then boom, we got it every time.
Right.
Like that's like basically what he needs. But it's just, and if I was a defense and you're not jumping every short route, then you're just doing yourself a disservice.
Mm. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. All right, let's move to our last dump 'em. Derrick Henry, close to home. What do you think? Would you dump him?
I would say no. He hasn't started great, but neither have many other running backs. So you're not going to get much of a running back a return for him. He's only got 100, little over 100 yards and 1 touchdown through 2 games. But what I love about him is something like you mentioned earlier. He's not playing hurt right now, so he's healthy. He's got a head coach that believes in running the ball. I think that's huge. That doesn't get away from the game script just because they're down 7 points or something silly like that. And the quarterback doesn't have a big enough ego to just keep the ball for himself every time they're within 5 yards. So I would stick out. I'd stick it out with Henry.
Yeah, I mean, I am in half my leagues, I am the Derrick Henry owner. As long as he is healthy, as long as he, I knew coming into the year that the passing offense wasn't going to be the same passing offense we've seen in the past. Because if the passing offense is the same as we've seen in the past, Derrick Henry is light years ahead of where he is right now. I think he, is every week he is 100-yard, 2 touchdown candidate. There's going to be clunkers because I feel like the Titans are not a very good team anymore.
And they also just played the Bills, probably one of the best teams in the league. So
yes.
It's all situational. So
it is all situational. They came out week one though. He didn't have a fantastic week 1. It was decent, but he didn't have a fantastic week 1 against the Giants. So yeah, I mean, their schedule gets kind of squishy when you reach against the Texans and you have ones against the Jaguars, and you got to face them 4 games, throughout the year. So I really do think that there are better days ahead for Derrick Henry, and to give up on a running back of that caliber, it would take a lot. And I just don't think if you're giving up a running back like that, you're going to have to get another running back in return. And I think any running back at this point, week 2, is going to be a major downgrade because, like we'll talk about it later, there's no running backs in the league. If you're not talking about like Chubb or maybe even James Robinson, you're talking about people who have absolutely underplayed their draft position. So I think at this point, Derrick Henry is one of the better ones, and you should probably hold on to him at least for a few more weeks and see where that train takes you. Okay, how about roses? How about we give these guys roses? How about one of your favorites, Tua Tags? Would you give him a rose?
I last week I kind of knew he was going to start playing well, and he went out and just diced up the Ravens and my fantasy team since I was playing against Tua. Put up a nice 50 burger against me, almost 60. I have to say, I do. Last year, the interview about him saying he played most of the season without even really knowing the playbook, it just felt so Kyler Murray-esque. Like, I don't need to listen to anybody. I'll just go out there and do whatever I want. Fuck you. I know better than you. Like, it just seemed like such a person that needs to be punched in the face hard, And this year, with, surprising to me, he studied, he learned the playbook, he did all these things. I mean, Mike McDaniels is a great head coach. And I knew he was a great head coach. But it's kind of like Cliff Kingsbury being a great coach. I know he's a great coach, but will the quarterback have the brains enough to listen to him? And Kyler, no. Tua, yes. So that's huge. Yeah, Tua gets a rose. He gets all the roses, man. The guy's killing it right now. And I mean, the biggest thing to me though is the game script. Last game against the Ravens, they were down big, and Dolphins didn't even blink. Tua took the play calls. He led the team. He won the game. I think that was huge. I think it's going to be even bigger test for him against the Bills this week. But win or lose, I think he's still getting the rose.
I'm not giving him the rose. I like Tua. I like what I've seen. I like what I've seen in comparison to what I thought he was preseason. People are making comparisons to Drew Brees and that style of play, and that it's just a catchable ball. He throws the most catchable ball in the NFL.
That's important. That's very
I
important.
get it. He throws the most catchable ball in the NFL
I
because
mean,
it's
if you still
soft
want
and
to
it's
laugh at Tyreek Hill's catches. Every single one of Tyreek Hill's catches, he has to slow down the ball. Every single one. He's
sure.
burning the guy
Yeah.
by 7 yards. He's like, all right, let me hold on. Let me wait for this. When's it going to go here? Is it no? All right.
What's so funny though is when you're watching that game and you see Tyreek Hill just absolutely blown coverage, like it's just ridiculous. We saw the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. This is like literally watching replays of Kansas City film with a different uniform. Like Tyreek Hill is just really, really freaking good, and he just blows up defenses and makes coverages look like they're so blown because he goes from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Anyway, Tua has like 2 quarters of brilliance this year. And I'm not saying he did bad in the other 6 quarters, but it's not like he was setting the world on fire in those other 6 quarters. I mean, he threw a pick and he was kind of struggling in that first half against Baltimore.
He's 7-2 touchdown to interception ratio. It's not bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, he did great. And it might be weighted heavily, because of those last 2 brilliant quarters.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying by any means everybody's wrong, because I think Tua is fine, especially with the cast of all the characters he has around him. I think it's absolutely wonderful. But I'm not ready to say, oh, Tua's top 10. I'm not. I'm not ready to say he's better. You got Aaron Rodgers has been underperforming. Tom Brady's underperforming. I mean, are you saying that Tua is better than all these guys? I'm not saying that just because you give him a rose that you are, but it's like,
Yeah, but there's top 10 right now that at the end of the year are not going to be top 10. Lamar Jackson's number one QB right now. That will not be the case at the end of the year.
Joe Flacco.
He'll get hobbled at some point. His defenses will just stop letting wide receivers run fly routes, because that's literally all they run. It's the dumbest thing in the world. Just fucking put the guy in front of you. You're not fast enough to keep up with him, and you give him a bigger cushion. That's it. It's real fucking simple. But people can't figure that out yet. Defense is out there playing with blindfolds on, thinking that Lamar Jackson's really good. There's shit like Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz isn't going to last that long. He's got another 2 weeks before he makes the bonehead play and gets his fucking leg broken like an idiot.
We're not talking about.
I could go on. I could keep going. I'm just saying, like, top 10 is very different right now and at the end of the year, because Tua plays to not hurt himself. Tua delivers the ball. It's like, if you keep running into oncoming traffic, eventually you're going to get hit by a semi truck.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, when I watch Tua play, there are parts of his game where I'm like, maybe you should have known this was coming with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Maybe you should have not poo-pooed on him, earlier on because you thought he threw a softball or whatever. I mean, the guy doesn't turn the ball over, so. Again, not ready to give him the rose, not ready to say that.
He still has some Baker moments too. Because if you watch the coach cam and see like Tyreek wide open, sometimes he'll see him, but he knows that he can't get him the ball, kind of thing. He still has Baker moments. So
yep.
Don't worry.
That's your term for bad things?
No, it's for instance, like, you watched Josh Allen play last night. He's doing his progression. Oh, the third progression's a deep guy. I don't need to be fully set up perfect in my feet to be able to get him the ball. I can just throw him the ball because I have arm strength. It's
right.
For Baker and Tua, it's like, if you're going to do it for the deep guy, you knew that from the get-go, and you are setting your feet for it, and you're writing them a letter, you're sending them a little DoorDash food, whatever. It's the only place you're going, kind of thing. It's not a third progression. I got to move around in the pocket, guys chasing me, and now I fling it 40 yards. No. That's never going to happen. But
gotcha. How about the guy we just talked about, Carson Wentz? You ready to get him a rose? I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
It's not that I don't like him. I just don't like how he plays football.
He's been
I'm sure.
pretty good for the last year and a half. We've been
Hmm.
shitting on him constantly.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, fantasy wise,
Fantasy wise, I mean, he's not awful. It's just, he's got 7 touchdowns and three interceptions, very close to what Tua has. It's just there are times, kind of like what you were just saying with Tua. I mean, they were shut out in the whole first half against the Lions. Who gets shut out against the Lions defense? That's fucking terrible.
yeah.
And they came back. He came back in the second half and put up a couple of touchdowns. He also put up a couple of interceptions. It's I just like I commend him that he takes risks and he does try to win the game. He just usually takes the wrong risks, and usually he puts his own health at risk as well. And that's when he hasn't even really he never really changed his play style from when he had that season-ending injury. So it's just like you never learned your lesson. I don't think you're going
He's
to.
not like a
It's
big
just
runner.
I'm just he's not a big runner, and that's the thing. He makes terrible decisions when he does run. So it's just I feel like when I watch him, I'm just waiting for something bad to happen because I'm just like you make bad decisions with the
Yeah.
ball.
QB5 this year thus far.
Mm-hmm.
QB12 last year over a full season of work. I'm not ready to give him a rose and say that he is somebody you need to keep and watch and a upper echelon quarterback, but he's definitely serviceable. I have him in that
Oh
10 to
yeah,
15 range, and I think that he deserves to be in that 10 to 15 range. It's one of those things where, if you bet on somebody to do bad and you lose, 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row, it's like, oh man, that's I was wrong, But if you keep betting against him, you keep losing, you're a moron. And I don't want to be a moron. So just from what I'm seeing with my own eyes, I don't want to be caught in the stupidity that is betting against Carson Wentz week after week after week. I think he's not doing it. I mean, he's got Scary Terry and Jahan Dotson, who was a high pick receiver, and who else are they doing? Curtis Samuel. And this is not what Tua has. This is mediocrity. Logan Thomas. So yeah, I think Carson Wentz he deserves to be an NFL quarterback. He deserves to be in that 10 to 15 range. I think that if
does
you
he
have
get your
him,
rose though?
he doesn't get my rose. So I
Oh,
guess
that's so you're sending him
I
home.
no, yeah, I'm sending him home because I think that what okay, I guess we need to define what the rose is. What the rose is that am I confident in him for the rest of the season? Would I be like, all right, this is one of the cornerstones of my team. I'm not ready to do that yet. I wasn't ready to do it with Tua. I'm not ready to do it with Carson. Where if
I
Carson
would
has two or
sell him
three
high right now.
weeks,
36 points and 31 points in 2 weeks. I'd sell him high.
I would not sell him high, but I would
Sell him low.
definitely not I would definitely watch him closely and say, you know, it, is that are you gonna screw up? Are you gonna turn into Carson Wentz from 3 years ago? I I'm on the fence, but I think that Carson Wentz right now is great. Wouldn't sell him. I'm not ready to say you're not going to be good, but I'm not ready to say that you are somebody that I build around. So yeah,
Fair
that's
enough.
just my opinion. How about Amon Ra, the Sun God, Amon Ra St. Brown? Do you give him a rose?
I do give him a rose. Guy's hot right now. He's got 12 targets in 2 games, 3 touchdowns, plus a 100-yard game. I mean, that's what you want out of your wide receiver in two
Hmm.
weeks. He's getting the targets. He's productive. He's getting touchdowns. Guys doing great right now. He looks like it's Jared Goff's first read every play basically. So
Yeah, I was all. I mean, he won me a championship last year. I was all on the Amon Ra train last year. Just absolute huge talent. I mean, so you remember that week one with Justin Jefferson? Obviously, you remember it was 2 weeks ago. And
mhm.
it just looked like he was wide open on every fucking play. It's like, are you just not going to cover everybody? You were watching this because you had Kirk Cousins. It's just like, are you just not going to cover him? Why is he not covered? Why is he wide open in every play? Sometimes I think of that about Cooper Kupp too. And it's not even about whether the guy can make the super good catch, has great hands, and makes some catch like Deontay Johnson made, a few weeks ago, where He comes back down toe taps and just amazing like catches. You don't even have to do that. The way you look at these receivers is like, how much separation do you have between you and the close defender? Amon-Ra has so much room to make catches.
Mm-hmm.
He has the way he runs routes is amazing, and the way that the speed that he has to get open underneath is awesome. And what he does with the run after the catch, wonderful. It just seems like he's always open in the end zone also. So it's just one of those things where the combination of separation, speed, and the fact that he's going to be leaned on. Okay, Goff hasn't found Hawkinson yet. I know from firsthand experience. They're not on the
Sad.
same page. But Amon-Ra is on the same page, and to score points, it's the him and Swift show, and mostly it's the Amon-Ra show. Teams are
Mm-hmm.
going to start getting that, and they're going to start zoning in. But I really think Amon-Ra's good enough to push through that. He's the number one receiver. He's a wide receiver 1, and if you drafted him as a wide receiver 2 or 3, you are a very smart person, and you deserve all the praise in the world. But yes, absolutely gets my rose, Amon-Ra. How about Christian Kirk, Captain Kirk? What do you
You
think?
know, this is one that surprised me, but I am going to give Christian Kirk a rose just because he's got similar numbers to Amon Ra. He's got 100-yard game, he's got 2 touchdowns, and he looks like Trevor Lawrence's guy right now.
Mhm.
I mean, if defenses start to hone in on him, I don't know how well it's going to go, but he's like I said, Trevor Lawrence is looks like the quarterback that they drafted him to be basically in the last 2 games. He's looked confident. He's looked on point. He has delivered the ball very well down the field, and most of those are to Christian Kirk. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. I still expect Amon-Ra St. Brown to be a better wide receiver, but I expect Christian Kirk to be up there too.
Christian Kirk is like the quietest success story I think that we have thus far in fantasy. 18 targets, 12 catches, 195 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I believe he has a touchdown in both weeks. Or no, I'm sorry, he had 2 touchdowns last week, but he had 12 targets week 1 and over 100 yards.
Yeah.
That week 1 we talked about Jacksonville being bad. We were like, oh man, that was bad. I mean, they're mostly bad on defense, and I think Christian Kirk didn't really get the spotlight with those 6 catches, 117 yards. Came out last week against Indy, who is really honestly not an easy secondary, and came out and torched him for 6 catches, 78 yards, two scores. I mean, Christian Kirk was a afterthought in Arizona. Jacksonville came out and gave him literally backed up the truck of gold bouillon and dumped it in his driveway. And I mean, everybody was like, "That is the stupidest contract I've ever seen." He's kind of living up to it right now. I mean, at least through the first 2 weeks of the season. Uh,
Yeah.
do I believe that that can sustain? No, I don't. He's not getting my rose. I don't really think that that can sustain.
So, would you
I
be trying to sell him high right now then?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely would be trying uh, to sell him high. I don't believe in that because I still believe in the ineptitude of the Jacksonville offense. And I believe that you could be frustrated if he faces a really good defense on the road. So like you've
Like
got
traveling to the Chargers next.
Yes, traveling to the Chargers,
Yeah, that's
traveling to
going to be tough.
Philadelphia. We just saw what big play Slay can do to somebody like Justin Jefferson. I mean, if you get rid of him like literally this week, that would be ideal because the next 2 are going to be brutal. Now it's a long season, so if you believe him the whole season, I don't blame you. I mean, it's not terrible to have him as a wide receiver 2, but I don't think he's a wide receiver 1. I think he's more in the range of a wide receiver 3 on your team. If you have 3 slots, I would play him in that 3rd slot or a flex. But I do not believe he's going to sustain this kind of success going forward. So, how about last one here, Antonio Gibson? Rose?
Nah, no rose for Antonio Gibson. He doesn't really seem to be a focal point of the offense. It seems to be much more on Carson Wentz. He's gotten a decent amount of attempts, but I mean, like 20 yards in each game. That's bad. Like
Yeah.
that's really bad. I
Mhm.
honestly, and plus he is with a quarterback that if they're in the 5 yard line, the quarterback will pull it down, keep it himself, and run a bootleg in, even if it means getting injured for the rest of the season. He would much rather do that. So that's going to be terrible for any Antonio Gibson owners. He loses passing downs to J.D. McKissick.
True.
It's not ideal. So like he's really just an RB 3 or 4 in for injuries or bye weeks, and hopefully he can vulture a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, Brian Robson's going to come back. I don't know when. We don't really see people recover from gunshot wounds all the time. But I would
He was doing the
say,
rope ladder the other day. I saw
yeah.
it.
I mean, he's like, I would say week 5 right now is the shooting point, but you don't know if it'll be like week 10 or whatever. The reason I put him on this list is because everybody was like shitting on him preseason. His fumble problems. He hasn't
Oh,
fumbled yet. Fumble problems.
he's got
Um,
that going for him.
yeah. People were like, he doesn't have the burst. I mean, we're talking about somebody who was like rookie of the year candidate 2 years ago. I mean, he was super impressive, and then he had a down year last year, and then preseason was a disaster this year. So the reason is like, do you have confidence in him going forward? Again, this is one of those people where I'm like, you are getting good production out of somebody who nobody thought would have decent production. So I'm not going to give him a rose to say he's going to do it the rest of the season because I don't have confidence in that Commander's three-headed attack none of them once Brian Robinson does come back. But I think that you hold on to him. You don't dump him or anything like that. You hold on to him right now because he is really valuable running back too. 2 10+ point weeks in a row for Antonio Gibson. So um, really, honestly, I think right now he is running back 10, running back 10. So, I mean, that's really actually 11. Really good production out of somebody who was an afterthought. And a lot of people didn't want to start even in a flex spot or a running back 2 spot
I would
before the preseason.
see that more as an insult towards the whole group of running backs as a whole than necessarily Antonio Gibson shining by any means. And you're giving him your rose. You want him on your team for the rest of your year, rest of the year.
Uh, no,
Mm.
I didn't say
You're
I was
getting
giving him
down on
Rose.
one knee for Antonio Gibson here.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I would never.
Yeah. See,
I would never.
Neil
I
Lane's
but
going to be pissed.
I I will say uh I wouldn't dump him. I'd give him a little bit more time, but I'm not ready to commit to him the whole year.
You want to date him in the real world, see how he is.
Yeah, I want to see his
Yeah,
tendencies
makes
and
sense. Yeah.
his political affiliation, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether he believes in God.
Yes, absolutely. I know we've already done this, but let's get in real quick about Overreaction Tuesday. Okay, you ready for a little
Ooh.
Overreaction Tuesday? This is like a general fantasy philosophy question. Are we in trouble with running backs? I mean, is it a wide receiver league now? People that spent really high picks on Christian McCaffrey and Najee Harris and Derrick Henry and all that, they're not getting what they paid for. Is this going forward the rest of the year? Like, should have in the first round, should we just start picking receivers?
You know, it wouldn't be a terrible idea. Running backs just seem so untrustworthy, undependable.
Mhm.
Like you really don't know what you're going to get out of them year to year, and some of it has to do with them and their own health. Some of it has to do with the quarterback handing the ball off. Some of it has to do with the offensive coordinator. Some of it just has to do with the play script. But like Jonathan Taylor this year, he was amazing last year.
Absolutely.
Where is he? Where is he? Like
Well, I mean,
there's,
that's that whole
I mean,
offense.
yeah, that's the whole offense. But the offense ran through him. It went through him. So it's just one of those things. I think if you're in a league like ours, uh, double QB 14 team league, I would start looking more at wide receivers. And so even I guess I'm in some other leagues that are one QB team defense that QBs are really low down and running backs are really premium. And honestly, when I was doing my draft for that, I found it really hard for there to be running backs that I was legitimately excited for in the first couple rounds. And that was preseason before I knew how much they sucked.
Yeah.
Now I know that they blow, and I'm just like, oh my God, get the fuck off my team. I'm like trying to, no flex spot is ever going to get a running back because it's just that's fucking throwaway right there. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I had a
I would have to start leaning the other way.
I disagree. I had a conversation with somebody earlier today talking about Derrick Henry, and you should sell him right now for wide receivers and just stack your team with a bunch of Naheem Hines and wide receiver threes or I'm sorry, running back twos and running back threes. The Naheem Hines of the world, the Michael Carters of the world, the James Robinsons, the people that were drafted low and people that really don't have a lot of confidence in them. You should just stack your team in your running back spots with those guys and start with the Chases and the Hills and the Jeffersons and the Amon-Ra's. Just stack your team with those. I don't agree because I think that I'm not going to say this is just a coincidence, but I think that a lot of it is situational. The really good running backs in the league are all on teams that have been bad. The Colts have not looked good passing. The Titans have not looked good passing. It's not that it's Jonathan Taylor's fault or it's the game plan or whatever. These teams are inept passing. Jonathan Taylor had a terrible week because Michael Pittman was gone and there was nobody else to pass to, and Matt Ryan looked lost. Okay, Derrick Henry had a bad week because Tannehill turned the ball over against one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL, and they got down by 30 points real quick. Okay, you've got Najee Harris who's not playing at 100%. We've discussed this. Joe Mixon, you've seen the O-line for the Bengals be just bad and not give him time. I mean, they're 0-2. So all these teams like 0-2, 0-1-1. Najee's they're 1-1 miraculously. You've got
Thanks to Tinka, Minka, and TJ Watt. But
yeah,
it's just all of this
these
is like
teams are
none of this
bad.
equates to points. None of this equates to I can't put 0-2, but because my running backs were in bad situations, like
So
like I think of as the team that last year that had the two best running backs in the league that were both doing really well, still didn't help them enough.
so that's my question though, is like, do you think that these bad teams continue to be bad and these good running backs, the Panthers, Christian McCaffrey, 0-2. Like all these teams are 0-2. Their passing game are not killing it. So you can't say, well, it's a wide receiver league now because Baker Mayfield and DJ Moore aren't doing shit either. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, I mean, your example of whether it's a wide receiver league is Baker's a wide receiver. Like, come
I'm
on.
just saying, if it's a wide receiver league, then these offenses with really good running backs should be focusing on their passing game and doing decent. All the good running backs, literally the top 5 running backs that I just named, which were what? Mixon, Najee, Henry, Taylor. All those teams are like winless. The only win is the Steelers, and they beat the Bengals by 1 or 3 or whatever by on the last second field goal
in overtime.
In overtime, there is literally no good team. So like, it's not like, well, it's a wide receiver league now because these teams with good running backs are now just airing it out. That's not happening. They're
It's
just
not that they're airing out, but they
bad.
suck.
They're just sucky.
They just
They're
suck.
just bad.
So it's just like
So all these
you're
people
gonna
out
put
there,
your eggs in those baskets?
I'm gonna say that they're not gonna all suck for the rest of the year. I'm literally betting on
Until they
5
play
teams
each other,
not sucking.
basically. Until
I mean,
Baker plays Tannehill, until Matt Ryan plays the Pittsburgh. Like,
Taylor and Henry are going to face twice. One of them's got to do well.
That's what you're banking on.
Yeah, I'm just saying. These teams. It's not so much that the running backs that we drafted high are just being shifted out, and that there's no such thing as an RB1 anymore. Is that you shouldn't spend high draft picks on running backs. It's more that these offenses got to get going. They got to get going. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to get going. I think Derrick Henry is going to get going. I think there's going to be matchups where you see these guys score 20 points, 30 points, whatever, like you see Chubb has done, pretty successfully over the first 2 weeks. I think you're going to see that. It's just not there yet. It's just 2 weeks of, them being symbiotic, all these games being symbiotic, and all these games working together to make this outcome where we are making assumptions that running backs are dead overall.
But riddle me this: has not basically every single rule change for the past 20 years been for the benefit of the passing game? I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's against the running game, but it's benefit of the passing game. So more often than not, when head coaches have to make a play call, they're going to call a pass.
I get it. We're never going to see the Larry Johnson 30 touchdown or whatever, the Sean Alexander 20-something touchdown. We're never going to see those days again. Those days are going. Priest Holmes being that guy, LT. God, LT was amazing. Those running backs are gone. I get that. But you still have the Jonathan Taylor, kind of running backs that are good to have. And again, we can go into a huge long conversation about wins above replacement on these and opportunistic and you took this running back really early, but he's not scoring that many points, but he's scoring more points than all the other running backs, which is what matters to me. Anyway, I'm not going to rant about that. I think that we disagree. I think running backs are going to do better. You think wide receivers as a whole are the future, and that if you have a running back that's really good, sell him like you just did. Najee, you said bye-bye. Let's do a Dolphin roundup here. Are they playoff bound? You think this team is good?
I think it's good. I think it's too early to say anything about playoffs because they're playing good football right now. And I would say the same thing about the Bills. You don't want to play your best football in September.
You think do you think they're even close to the Bills?
We'll find out this week, but I don't think so. I think Bills are more of an overall team, better team in general. I think Dolphins flash really well. But they're playing really well. They beat their division opponents and Patriots. They beat the Ravens. If they can beat the Bills this week, then we're having a different conversation. But I don't expect them to.
They're 8-1 in their last 9 games.
Who, the Dolphins?
Yes.
But they're 0-4, 0-6 against Josh Allen. So none of that matters.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, do I think they'll win the division? No. Like I said, Tua has 2 good, brilliant quarters, and I think that we'll see more brilliance as the years goes on, because you have Tyreek Hill and because you have Waddle. Did you see Gesicki's gritty? Is that what you call it? What's the dance where they go? That's the gritty.
I'm not. Is it? I've never. What are they putting on glasses? Like doing a Mr.
It's what
Magoo? I
Jefferson
always
does.
thought it was a Mr. Magoo thing. I thought it was a Mr. Magoo. Like you didn't see me, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. I didn't see him.
I mean, it's a cool dance, but
kind of a thing.
they kind of
You
like
can't
do it
see
in
me.
place. They do it in
Mm-hmm.
place, or they do it like in a small little circle. Like Gesicki
Mm-hmm.
did it, and he did it like all the way
Mm-hmm.
across the end zone, like Peter Pan, like he was skipping. It was really bad. He got roasted on the internet yesterday. It was like right when he scored the touchdown, I was like, oh my God, what is he doing?
It's
That's
like the Peyton
embarrassing.
Manning commercial with the kids.
Yes, it was real bad. But yeah, no, I like the Dolphins. I think that the Dolphins are definitely playoff bound. I really, week after week, if you are going to take Dolphins and the spread against pretty much anybody in the NFL, I would not count that out. I think the Dolphins can match up against anybody and play well. And yeah, it's a scary offense. It's one of those offenses that you try to plan against, and every week they can come at you with something different. I mean, we haven't even seen Chase Edmonds. We really haven't even seen that running game, and we haven't seen Tua take off and get that intermediate run game going at all. Literally, all
I
you've
don't think
seen
they
is
want him to. Dude's made out of glass. You don't want him running. You kidding me?
whatever. Then Raheem Mostert, it's
I'm just saying. Tua starts running, and then the whole thing's gonna fall apart.
yeah. If you have to go to Teddy B, Bridgewater is the backup. So
Yeah, it's
I
not
don't,
good.
I don't know. I don't know. How about Cooper Rush, the future? the future. People were talking Aikman. People were talking Tom Brady, coming in for the hurt quarterback.
No, none of that. It's simply just they got back to basics. They got back to their running backs. They passed off of play action. A lot of it has to do with film. Like Cooper Rush has only played a few games in the past few years, so you don't have that much film on him. So you can come out and do things that you weren't expecting because you don't have any film on him. It's once you get a five consecutive weeks with the same unit and of film with it on him, then you find out how good of a quarterback is going to be.
Yeah. Okay. I can do that. I Cooper Rush. They barely beat the Bengals. It didn't look.
But they did
pretty.
beat the Bengals.
They got
That's
shot.
Embarrassing.
He shot out of the cannon. Okay, that first drive was like down to Noah Brown. I was like, oh my gosh, Cooper Rush. It's great. He could be the new Romo. We saw him do well last year, I think, against the Vikings, where he did all right. But I mean, I didn't see much from Cooper Rush to be like, wow, this guy is really good. Remember when Romo came about and you're like, wow, how's he doing this? He's just slinging it all over the place, and he's just really good. And you're like, wow, week after week after week. I don't think Cooper Rush like that. I think he's trying to build his case as a serviceable backup. And I think that they get, unfortunately, I'm saying this, beat by the Giants on Monday night, and the Giants go 3-0. Who would have thought Danny Dimes would be 3-0 on the season? But anyway,
I think of it as Saquon Barkley being 3-0.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I think of it as Xavier McKinney, 3-0. Good man. Nathaniel Hackett, is he the worst coach in the NFL? Did you see him face the Texans? He wanted us to win so bad. Is he the worst coach? Brutal.
Yeah, I want to say yes, but he's won a game. He's 1-1. He's not 0-2.
True.
That's terrible. There are worse coaches because of that. Because even with all those blunders, even with being like, just let the clock run out. We'll kick a 64-yard field goal. I'm not even gonna watch. We got it. Whatever. Like, it's the dumbest fucking plan I've ever heard of to end the game and how you're going to win it. But as I said, he's 1-1.
It's like when you're playing Madden and your mom calls you and tells you to go do something real quick and you forget to pause and it's like delay a game. It's like that every fucking week where you see it and it's like time's running out and the quarterback's just sitting there and it's like, oh, delay a game. Like, it happens multiple times a game and you're like sitting there like, what are you doing?
I heard the crowd was counting down the clock too. So it was like, there is no way you don't know.
Who said that? Who was I talking about?
You have like 80,000 people yelling at you exactly how much time you have left.
Oh, it's Brad in our group chat. Yeah, he was saying like, I don't think that's conducive to like winning. I don't think that's good for your quarterback. And I'm like, yes, they're mad because he apparently doesn't know what the play clock is.
Well, they gave up a lot for him and gave him a huge contract. Like, hey, man, we got everything. We just need you. You're the final piece of the what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
kind of every day. Like,
I mean, just the play call though. There was a couple like 3rd and inches or 3rd and 1 where they line up in shotgun, and it's like if I was a Broncos as a Texans fan, I'm like, whoa, yes, keep it going, baby. Yes, awesome. Yeah. He really tried to give it to us. Like, he was really trying to give it to us, but we just couldn't muster any offense. Maybe we can figure it out in the weeks to come. But yeah, it's not all there. All right, how about Jimmy G? Are these skill players? Let me talk about Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Wilson. Are these guys better than they were last week? Are they on a better footing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trey Lance was never going to buy into the system. Trey Lance had such I'm the golden ticket to this franchise thought shoved so far up his ass that he wasn't worried about getting the ball to people. He wasn't worried about what the play was supposed to do. He was just worried about going out there and winging it. And you can see the difference in the stats. Even to Debo. Like, it was sad because you watch Debo. I think the first game, Debo had like 14 targets for like 3 receptions. And it's like, man, he just had no idea how to get him the ball. And Jimmy goes in there and gets Debo the ball like 8 times immediately. It's just a difference. Now, I do think it hurts Ayuk just because Jimmy's never going to bomb it to him, basically. Kittle will be great if he's healthy. And Jeff Wilson would probably be good too. So I think it helps all of them, honestly, except for Ayuk.
I think it. I mean, I think it helps all of them as well. It's a really fucking weird situation when you draft somebody second overall, or I'm sorry, third overall, and
But they jumped up like 10 spots to get him was the big thing too.
and you were so invested in somebody, and then right before the season starts, you're like, you bring in Jimmy, which everybody was kind of surprised by, and they're like, "Ooh, do you have something against Trey Lance?" And then your star that you're building around gets hurt, and everybody's like, "Yes." Like, that's so fucking weird to me. Like, the media, like the players, they just look excited. Did you see when like he did that? He tipped in the end zone.
No,
Did the
I
one
didn't see
like the
that.
rush? He did the QB sneak in the end zone, and everybody was like hugging him and patting him on the helmet. And he had this like huge Jimmy G model smile on, and it was like, these are the 49ers that went to the Super Bowl. This is a good
Yeah.
team now, and I feel really bad for Trey Lance because like I'm sure the whole town of San Francisco was like, yes, like if
But that's what I always talk about, putting yourself in harm's way. The whole system of the 49ers offense is made for the quarterback to get rid of the ball and give it to the playmakers, which they have tons of around there. Trey Lance didn't want to do that. Trey Lance was like, no, I'm the
we've
best guy in the
seen
field.
nothing of Trey Lance. You've
Yeah.
seen Trey Lance play like 12
Garbage.
quarters. You've seen him play like 12 quarters,
Like
and like
garbage.
4 of them were in a monsoon. Like, we have not seen Trey Lance. We can't say
I
whether Trey
hate I
Lance is
hate
good or
saying
bad.
that. Oh, it's so bad for him because he played in a monsoon. The other team played in a monsoon too.
I
It's not like when
know,
the other team came out, the rain stopped.
but we've seen
They
enough of
both
Justin
played in it.
Fields. We know what Justin Fields is. We don't know what
Yeah.
Trey Lance is. No one still knows. If Trey Lance comes out of this injury and is the backup, let's say Jimmy G goes and wins Super Bowl and fucks up everything the 49ers plans, it'll just make everybody's brain explode. What happens then with Trey Lance next year? What do we do with that? If he goes to another
But
team, how good is
the
he?
but that's sorry, just to go back a second. That's why the teammates, the people in San Francisco were happy to get Jimmy G back because Jimmy G never lost the job. Jimmy G got hurt. He got hurt multiple times. And then they were like, fuck, we got to find another quarterback eventually because he ended up being such an issue. And what did they happen? What did they do? They kept Jimmy G because they said, wait, we've seen our quarterback get hurt a lot. Let's have a good backup and it not be Mason Rudolph or some fucking crap like that. So they kept Jimmy G because they knew at any point Trey Lance might get hurt.
I'm
And
gonna call BS
within
on
2
that.
weeks.
So that the year after they went to the Super Bowl, they drafted Trey Lance, and Jimmy kept the job that whole year. And then in the offseason, they said straight up, we're moving on. This is Trey Lance's show now.
But he kept
Jimmy
getting
was hurt.
injuries. That was a big part. That was
Right.
a big problem. He kept getting injuries. He had his ankle thing, and he tried to play through it. And he played like shit trying to play through it, and
If he
things like
was
that. So
100%, if he was 100%, he would be on a different team, right? He'd be on the Seahawks. Or
if he didn't have that offseason surgery, yeah, they probably would have gotten a good enough offer for him that they would have traded him for some picks.
Right.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So it'd be a totally different story. What I'm saying is, like, I feel as if that people are not Trey Lance is getting shit on right now, like by the media,
Okay.
by fantasy players, by all this.
Do you
Like,
remember Trey Lance's senior year in college football?
Was it COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he played like 2 games in like 2
Exactly.
years, and then he got drafted as a top 5 quarterback. That's fucking bullshit. He hasn't played football.
Yeah.
He really hasn't played football. So he went out and tried to play with a bunch of professionals, and his ankle went, So like, yeah, that's what happens. If you don't play football very often, if you try to go play football with people that play football a lot, it ain't gonna go well.
Well, I'd be interested to see now that everybody's jumped off the Trey Lance bandwagon, because there's a lot of people that jumped on in the offseason and now have jumped off. I'd be interested to see fantasy wise and just everything. What does Trey Lance have to bring to the table? Because I think he's still got a question mark on his face. He's not like a bust. You cannot call Trey Lance a bust. You can't.
Because it never was.
Because you just have no idea. You just have no
I
idea.
think he's probably really good at playing quarterback when he's got a red shirt on and nobody can touch him, and he knows nobody can touch him. It's probably the best time he plays quarterback.
I know he went to the strip club after week 1, and he's just got absolutely crushed in the media for that as well. That his head wasn't in the game after an L. But I'm sure
it was after a loss.
after the Bears game, he went to like a Chicago strip club. They took pictures. Some asshole probably leaked some pictures. Anyway, all right, I won't get into that. Let us move into our disappointments and impressions from week 2. Team you're most disappointed by?
Bengals. I mean, they played so well last year, going to the Super Bowl, having that run all the way to the end to really just lose it on the last play, and then this year to come in and lose to an offenseless Steelers team, and then to lose to a Dakless Cowboys team. That's terrible. That's really bad.
It is.
About
That's
you?
bad. I think this is like 2 weeks in a row. Panthers. God, like why
Still got your
can't they?
hopes for them.
But they're not losing by a lot. They're not moving the ball like the way you draft a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. You have a top 5 running back. Like we thought Baker would be better. It's like what's going on? Is this O-line that bad? I know the defense isn't that terrible because they haven't given up like a ton of points. They're literally losing like 3-point games in the teens or the low 20s. Like this is frustrating to watch because I feel like the offense is stagnant at points and it's not moving. I hope they get it together. I don't know when to stop betting on them. I can't quit them because I feel like they are a ticking time bomb. Like 1 week they're just going to score 40 points and we're not going to be ready for it. I don't know. We'll see. They disappointed me again. Team you're most impressed by?
Right now, the Dolphins. The first two weeks, beating the Patriots opening week, beating Bill Belichick opening week is not easy. And then
Yep.
last week, coming back and beating the Ravens. My favorite thing about them right now is they have a progression offense. A lot of teams don't have that right now. Some teams do. When I watch the Steelers play, and they're doing a fucking shovel pass on their own 40, that's not a progression play. That's I don't know, maybe we can get a couple yards out of this, and then hopefully the next play we'll try to get a couple. No, you have to have a fucking plan that if you do this run, then you set up the play action for the next time for this pass. That if he runs a short route, it's because next time he's going to run a short route, then wheel it up and go deep. Like you got to have a fucking thought process. So, yeah, that's what I like about it.
Gotcha. No, I understand that. I was impressed by the Jets.
Ooh.
I thought the Jets were in trouble this year. I mean, I liked what they were doing with Zach Wilson and the receiving core and bringing in Brees Hall and whatever. I remember talking about that in an earlier podcast. And then Zach Wilson gets hurt and Joe Flacco comes in and they kind of look like doo-doo week 1. And now Joe Flacco's number 3 in passing yards in the NFL and just comes out and is like vintage Joe Flacco. Like a Joe Flacco that nobody would. I can't think of somebody more improbable to come out and throw for 3 touchdowns, including the game winner against a defense that's pretty damn good with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and those guys in the secondary. I can't think of anyone more. Maybe Rudolph, or I don't know. I can't think of like a lot of more improbable quarterback to come out and do something like that. I was really impressed by their the composure and them coming out and winning that game. That was really impressive. Even though Chubb could have just knelt down on the 1-yard line and ended the game, but he scored. and then
Oof,
they came back
that's a
and
heartbreaker.
they kicked the onside.
Wow.
It is what it is. Football knowledge. I don't think Chubb should be villainized for that, but that's
No, the defense
football.
should be able to do their job.
Football, baby. Player most disappointed by.
Matt Ryan. He's just been like I saw him having one of the easiest jobs in the NFL as far as a starting quarterback. You know, you have one of the best rated offensive lines. You have one of the best running backs behind you. You have a good defense that just bend don't break, just don't get behind basically. And now he doesn't have the best wide receiver options. I'm not a huge fan of Michael Pittman. Even when he's out there, I don't think he's really a true wide receiver one. But when he's not out there, then he had zero weapons. So I get that, but he's just looked so bad this year. And like I said, I thought it was like, dude, just run the ball 5 times, and on the sixth time you do a play action, you'll be fine. Like, but they can't even get that right. So yeah. What about you?
Well, welcome home, Matt Ryan. But uh, uh, player most disappointed by Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson. It's not that he's got the lack of looks because Goff is trying. I mean, the
Mhm.
Lions scored 35 points plus in 2 straight weeks. That's nuts. And he's been looking for Hawkinson, and Hawkinson's had some bad drops, some bad routes, some bad, whatever. Um, it's disappointing because I know Hawkinson's a good tight end, so I'd like to see him progress and get on the page with Goff. Come on, let's score some points, buddy. Player that impressed you most?
So far, Jalen Hurts has been really impressive.
Yep.
Just when I watch him play, whatever the defense does, he's got an answer. And it's quick. It's, you break pressure on the pocket, he leaves quick, gets some yardage, throws the ball on the run, gets in the red zone. He's got such a big body that he just kind of like falls forward into the end zone. Guy's got some talent. If he can stay healthy, the Eagles might really be something to contend with in the NFC.
Yeah, I shit on him before the year started because I thought his lack of passing chops would hurt them. I knew he would be good with his legs on the ground. He has multiple rushing touchdowns, I believe, in both games. Is that right? Let me see here. I need to know
Believe
this before.
so. But
Uh,
he moves the
no.
chains well. That's the biggest thing. Is like I feel like there's barely ever stalled drives. Like a no first down drive. Basically, he doesn't really have much third 3 and outs.
Yeah.
Guy moves the ball.
I mean, he only has 1 touchdown pass in 2 games, and he's like scored 60 points. So he is getting the job done. Hasn't turned it over. Oh, he turned it over once with an interception, but yeah, I really hated on him for his lack of passing chops, and he's really showed me that it doesn't really matter. Fucking doesn't matter. He'll come out and do whatever. So good for him. Good for Jalen Hurts. Guy I was most impressed with, Amon-Ra. Maybe I just have a Detroit fetish. But Amon-Ra is just amazing. Just like I
He's
said,
been killing it.
the separation, I mean, the end arounds where he's just got so much room and just burns everybody. He's just an amazing football player. All right, a new segment that we haven't ever done. And this year we've tried to gear this podcast away from being too personal with people and try to get more general so that we can be free and easy and just talking about football and not just specifically our league, because who wants to listen to somebody talk about somebody's shitty team in some league that they don't care about. But today we're going to do Tuesday Trash Talk, where we rant about a Gridiron member who has disappointed us and why. I'm going to let you go first. Tell us who you're talking about and why.
All righty. So my Tuesday rant is going to be about the maestro Michael
Oof.
Hank.
Oof.
And now this is a bit has to do with his history from last year of having a very solid team on paper preseason, and then things happening during the regular season as they do, and being unwilling to change, unwilling to make moves, unwilling to make big trades because of like what we talked about earlier with like draft value, essentially where you drafted them and
Yes.
what you perceive their value to be preseason. And he kind of stuck with his team all year, refused to do anything, ended up getting last place. I'm starting to see a bit of a trend with that right now because he did take a lot of players high. He traded up to get extra picks in the first round. He's got players like Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Jamar Chase, you know, that have a lot of value to him. That to me personally, I would try to move at least one, if not two of those, and try to get some value out of them while they still have that preseason, lore of how good they might be this year. Um, I know it's tough saying those names like Stafford, and Chase, and thinking about getting rid of them, but that's the nature of the beast. That's sometimes how it is because you got to make moves. You got to drop people. He's got two kickers on his team right now.
Mm-hmm.
These
One's
are
in
the
an
things
IR
I'm
spot.
talking about.
One's in an IR spot, but yeah,
No, not
drop
anymore. Not anymore.
Bucker.
So
I mean, until he makes a
he's
move for
got
this week.
okay. I'm saying you
Yeah.
gotta. He's kind of waiting too long. I just don't want to see him wait like last year. It's
Yes.
not too late right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Taking L's, like we talked about earlier in this podcast, taking L's and realizing that you're not going to get back what you paid for a player is necessary to sometimes make the playoffs and on some players. Some of the smartest fantasy people once told me there's going to be people every year that hurt you. You're going to be wrong on some players every year. Don't let them hurt you all year. Find them
All year.
quick and get rid of them. And so,
I agree.
yes, I think that's a smart thing. I'm going to go with Brad. You bet. And here's why. I feel like there's a bit of apathy. Now, we are in a league that we have a standard set where everybody always sets a lineup and everybody's really into it and everybody's passionate about it. But there's some players that don't trade, or they get somebody and it's really hurting them and they're getting offers left and right and left and right. And they decide, you know what, I'm just not going to do this. I'm going to hold on to him because everybody wants him. And last year, I mean, he was like second worst team in our league, right? He held on in a 2-quarterback league to Jimmy Garoppolo, and he would not trade him for anything in the world. Got all these deals, and just took L after L after L, and eventually got second to last. He just held on to him for so long. This year, well, guess what? He's got Jimmy Garoppolo again as his third quarterback, and he's decided that what I offered him last night, which I probably shouldn't have, but I did, was Tyreek Hill and Hawkinson for Jimmy G and Metcalf, which is absolutely bonkers. What I wanted to do was solidify my quarterbacks so that Jimmy could play, and I was not forced to play Matt Ryan every week. So I could have Jimmy and Davis Mills. I could switch that out for Jimmy and Matt Ryan based on matchups. But I know Jimmy is safe and he's not going to lose any games for me. And so I was like, I had Drake London to fill in for Tyreek, but I offer him that. And I said, well, what else are you looking for? Just like negotiation wise. And he said, dunno. He just, I don't know. Just replies, I don't know. Comes back, rejects it. It's like, you're just apathetic to the whole situation. You don't care. So it's not that, hey, I don't want to move this guy, or I'm asking really high, or one of those situations. It's literally just, I don't know, like whatever.
But we've all
We'll move
known
on.
Brad to be more of an in-person trader. I feel like you got to buy him a drink and then
Yes,
have 4 more with him and then start talking about trading.
sure.
If you're just, middle of the week sober text, that's not going to get it done.
Yeah. No, I get it. I understand. And that's why I moved on. I mean, pretty much immediately. But if it's not me, then he's got to trade some. Don't hold people that can't help you from week to week. Don't hold them on your bench. I just traded Drake London for Trubisky because I know that I'm starting Reek and Cooks and DJ Moore every single week. Yeah, I can deal with buys. That's why I picked up Greg Dorsch. I can deal with buys. Don't hold a starter on your bench for multiple weeks for any reason. If he's good, if somebody on your bench, and this is just me getting on my fancy soapbox, if somebody on your bench is playing well enough to start for somebody else's team, go make your team better. Go make your team better. Period. Don't hold him. His value is not going to get higher, and if it does get higher, this is not the stock market. I mean, it kind of is stock market, so I don't want to go there. But this is not a stock that you hold for a long time and then be like, oh, week 10, I knew he'd reach his peak in week 10. Now I'm going to deal him. Like if somebody's doing well, if Drake London's doing right now, and you can get a good deal for him, go do that. If I had James Robinson, I haven't started him all year. I trade him to you. I got a good deal. I'm not going to start James Robinson. I like CEH better in most situations. In fact, I probably would have started Robinson this week, but I digress. Just saying. That's me getting on my soapbox. I don't want to get any deeper into that, but I'm glad we got that off our chest, Scott. Maybe we should do this weekly. I think it's therapeutic.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good for us.
Yeah. But let's get in the gambling corner. Last week on Thursday night, I did bad. -4.5, I took for the Chiefs. They did not cover. They got backdoored on Herbert's gimpy throw.
Last minute touchdown.
Last minute. Well, it wasn't really last minute, but it was in the last couple minutes. And he had that gimpy rib throw, which, by the way, we haven't even talked about Herbert and whether he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play, but yeah, on props though, it was CEH over 17.5 passing or receiving yards, and I did win that. So on the year, I'm 1-1 on spreads, 1-1 on props, pretty much broken even. This week, I think you'll like this, and I have to change it, by the way, because the spread has moved. But I like Steelers plus 4.5. It was announced today, for your pleasure, that Myles Garrett is probably not going to play, and Jadeveon Clowney is 100% out. So this frees up a little bit more time for Mitch Trubisky to either go out there and play some retro Mitch Trubisky 3-touchdown, 4-touchdown, slinging around the field, or just fuck up and Pickett comes on the field. Because I know Mike Tomlin's lying about playing Rudolph before he plays Pickett. I know he's lying about that.
This is a message to all Kenny Pickett owners. You can drop him now. Since TJ Watt tore his pec, there is absolutely no way they're going to put Kenny Pickett into a game and force him to win the game for them. Before, with a good, strong defense, maybe, sure. Before, with a good, strong running back that got over 1,200 yards last year and isn't pretending to not be hurt, maybe, sure. Now, with a defense that can't get a sack, a defense that can't touch a quarterback, that's just kind of sitting back, and a running back that's like, I'm not hurt. And they tell him to do a rope ladder, and he's like, that hurts my feet. That's not a situation they're ever going to put Kenny Pickett in. Until TJ Watt comes back and is actually healthy and is actually getting pressure on the quarterback, I don't think you're going to see Kenny Pickett at all, because there's no way they're going to throw him into that situation. They didn't want to throw him in the situation when the defense was good. So I think Mitch Trubisky could go out there and lay a fucking egg, and it doesn't matter, because he's already pretty much done that. He has looked so bad. There were times where Matt Ryan was on the TV right next to it, and I was like, man, that's still bad. So I don't think any of it's going to help. I think I will be rooting for the Steelers, but I fully assume that at any moment Chubb will just break off a 60-yard run, and that will be the game.
I like the Steelers. I'm taking the plus 4.5. Right now they're plus 4.5. I'm taking the Steelers. By the way, I think you're wrong. You know that GIF with the Simpsons people when they're all rioting and they all have pickets and torches? Yeah. That's the people of Pittsburgh coming after Mike Tomlin if he doesn't put in Pickett if you guys lose like 2 or 3 more games. In my opinion,
without Watt out there, it doesn't matter, because watching a Steelers defense that can't get pressure on the quarterback is so painful. It is the worst thing in the world. And if the defense can't get pressure on the quarterback, that's it. That's it, man. Kenny's not going to go out there and light it up for 45 points. So
Mm-hmm.
it sucks
Well,
because we have great wide receivers. Great wide receivers. Watching
yep.
what's it called? George Pickens out there literally doing nothing is even worse. But I blame it all on Trubisky. He's
Yeah. Well, we'll see. My prop is Trubisky over 200 yards. 200 yards is very low for a quarterback that's not going to have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney in his face. 200 yards. Just give him 200 yards. I'm actually going to start him in fantasy over Davis Mills this week. All right, just because of the Myles Garrett news and just because of what I saw Flacco come out and do to this Browns defense. I think Trubisky can be good, at least this week. Come out, give me 200 yards. That's what I'm taking. I'm all Steelers this week, baby.
I hope you win, man. I hope you win.
Yeah. Okay, Sunday parlays where you throw $100 to win 260. I lost last week, and the only one that I lost, I was 3 for 4. The only one I lost was the goddamn Bengals. Could not do anything against the Cowboys and actually lost the game. All I needed to do was the Bengals win the game, and they could not do that because they suck. I'm going back to the Bengals this week. Bengals +1. Yeah, right back to them. Bengals +1 against the Jets. I don't think that they can be that bad. Come on, you have just a cupcake schedule, and now you're going on the road against the Jets. Flacco's getting another game. Come on, you got to go out there and make something happen. So Bengals +1, Patriots +9 against the Ravens. Playing the Patriots on the road is not easy. And I know there's going to be millions and millions and millions of dollars in public money on the Ravens -3. I think that's an easy one. I like the Patriots to come out +9 and at least keep this game close at home. Otherwise, I'd be worried about the Patriots going forward. Jags +13. I liked what they did last week against the Colts. I think that what I'm trying to do here is get on, like I talked about, get on the train before they change the spread when Herbert is announced not playing. He's got bruised rib cartilage, which doesn't heal. It does not heal. The people are like, well, we'll see how he does next. He's going to be the way that Jameis is playing right now. And you see he's got broken vertebrae or cracked vertebrae in his back. It's terrible to think of a football player getting hit with cracked vertebrae in his back. But the way that is happening, you could see that with Herbert all year, which worries me immensely, but I'm not going to talk about trading or anything like that for Herbert. But I feel like if he's out this week and they start Chase Daniel, Jaguars +13 is great. I think that's just a great bet, and that's what I'm betting on. And last one, Chiefs -1. It's going to be really hard for me to think that the Colts that we've seen the first 2 weeks come in and beat Patrick Mahomes and one of the best teams in the AFC who have just looked like they're on fire. So I am strongly taking the Chiefs -1 in that one.
I like all of those. The only other one I'm worried about again is the Bengals, and it's because they're playing the Jets, which if Flacco plays again, Flacco likes beating teams he used to beat in the AFC North. They should not have beat the Browns last week. And I feel like this week they should not beat the Bengals, but they probably will.
Well, I guess we'll have to see. Yeah, I this is my last week on the Bengals, and if the Bengals don't win this week, I will be off the Bengals. I'll bet against the Bengals the rest of the fucking year. I don't care. Kind of like the Panthers. If the Panthers can't beat the Saints at home with Jameis all cracked up vertebrae, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. I'm done with the Panthers. I said on Sunday I was done with the Panthers. I'm probably not done with them this week, but we'll have to see. We'll see how froggy I get on Sunday. Last week your lineup was pretty hot in DraftKings.
I know. I didn't actually submit it. I didn't actually enter that lineup, and I was watching it during the games. I was like, "Damn, I think I would have made some money."
Yeah, Goff to Amon-Ra, and I think you had one more.
DuVernay. I had
Yeah.
DuVernay that was killing it.
Yeah. You got a return touchdown. So yeah, no, I mean it was pretty good. I liked it. Why don't you tell us about what you have this week?
This week, I really like Jalen Hurts. Like I said, he just always seems to be making uh, positive plays. Running back, my favorite running back this week is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that the Chiefs are not only using him a lot better in the game plan in general, but they're actually going to need to run the ball later and probably be up by a lot. Oh, I had Gibson in there, but I think I took Gibson out. I'd taken him out for someone else a little bit ago.
Mhm.
Um, but I think I replaced him with Swift. And I had still had money for Diggs as a wide receiver. I'm on Ross St. Brown again, and I like Christian Kirk just because I think even if if Herbert does play and they go up and he's all right, Christian Kirk, gets a lot of garbage time. If not, they go to Christian Kirk early, might be all right. A little scared of that Chargers defense. We'll see. Left me for a shitty tight end in Hunter Henry. Another flex shitty tight end, Irv Smith. We got a touchdown last week, and I like the Jaguars D, especially if Herbert doesn't play. If Herbert doesn't play and it's Chase Daniel, Jaguars D could feast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Jaguars D will probably be pretty chalky if Herbert doesn't play. Chalky by chalky, I mean that it'll have some pretty high ownership. But I like the Jaguars D. I think they looked really good against Matt Ryan. We'll see if it was. They look really really bad against Carson Wentz and really really good against Matt Ryan. And I guess we'll have to see who breaks the tie there. I was going to talk shit about you having two tight ends there because I hate to play the tight end in the flex
It's
because I
because I
feel
spent
like
all my money on the wide receivers.
right,
So it's
right.
the only
And
thing I could afford.
yeah, no, I understand. But I also have two tight ends. I have tight end in my flex as well. But I don't consider Pitts a tight end as much as I consider him a receiver,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like Travis Kelce. I think that he's just
Mm-hmm.
points that are just going to accumulate. But I like Mariota, so I'm going to go Mariota London stack against Seattle. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty good and cheap. Joe Mixon against the Jets, Leonard Fournette, Justin Jefferson to come out and have a rebound week. Olave, who was targeted. Did you watch that video that was sent in our group chat today where he was just targeted like 10
He just
times
kept
deep?
putting it up for him, man. It was
Yeah.
crazy. He just kept going.
Yeah, he just kept going. It was pretty amazing. And he only caught one of them and he fumbled it. But I think that that's rookie problems and he'll come around.
Go right back
Uh,
to him.
come right back to him. Ingram for the Jaguars at tight end. Hasn't really been featured. I feel like this is a week that they're going to have to come out and feature him. Evan Ingram is superiorly talented. He's very, very good, and I really think that he will show up this week. And to finish it off for defense, I have the Commanders against the Eagles. Cheap, low owned,
Mm.
coming off those Eagles, that Eagles offense, I really think the Washington D kind of shows out and plays up to their price. So that's what I got. How about Survivor picks? Let's take one shot. You're still in your Survivor, right?
I am still alive. I took the Rams over the Atlanta Falcons last week. I bet on the Atlanta Falcons defense being really bad, basically. This
Yeah,
week, man, there's a lot of coin flips to me. There's a
yeah,
lot
a
of coin flips.
lot.
As you can see, a lot of games going either way. My surest thing, knock on wood, is like what you were saying earlier, the Chiefs over the Colts. I think that's the surest bet, knock
Even
on
though
wood.
you're using or you're
I would be
losing the
using my
Chiefs,
Chiefs. I'm
you're
losing my
using your
Chiefs for the rest of the
Chiefs.
year. It's just so many other games are toss ups to me because even like my other favorite I love the Bills right now, but they're going up against a team that just put up 6 touchdowns. Like if there was any week to pick them, I don't want to pick them against a team that could put up 6 touchdowns,
Yeah,
basically.
you don't want to use the Bills in
So
this situation. You don't want to use the Bills.
yeah, that would be my other favorite. But that's really it. Maybe New Orleans over Carolina.
Yeah.
But that's a division game. I do not pick division matchups normally because anything can happen to those.
Well,
So,
I'm picking a division matchup
what do you think?
because I feel like you would not pick this team for the rest of the year, and that is the New York Giants. I think Monday Night Football, Giants, Cowboys. I think the Giants come to play. I don't think the Cooper
You
Rush magic. It did not impress me enough to think that they could
okay?
come out and beat this team on the road. Cooper Rush came out against a team that looked flat. It's bad. They didn't even score a lot of points. They had to win on a last-second field goal.
Okay.
Giants at home. This is the only time you're going to use the Giants. I can almost guarantee it.
I agree with that. My biggest thought with that, the Giants are playing well right now. Danny Dimes throwing dimes, Saquon running well. Biggest issue, they're playing on Monday night. Giants don't play under the lights. Giants barely know what prime time means. Giants fans have to pull out a dictionary to figure out what that means. They are 26 and 47 and 3 all time on Monday night because they do not do Monday night very often. When they get there, they go, "Oh, I can't see anything. There's lights everywhere." Never played at night. So those are the little things you got to look at, they're playing great, but then all of a sudden everybody's watching, the pressure's on. Danny Dimes goes, oh, I'm the same fuck up I've always been. That's the things you got to worry about.
I can't wait till Monday night where I see Danny Dimes throw a pick or something. I go, he's never played at night. Oh, all right. Basically. I love these weekly talks with you, Scott. I love getting together and talking some football. I know you're 0-2, but I wish only good things for you in week 3. Everybody else out there who is 0-2, I pray that you soon find the win column. Everybody who is 2-0 or 1-1, thank your lucky stars and continue that winning philosophy. Thanks for listening to us, guys. We will talk to you next week, same time, same place. See ya.